So I really appreciate everyone for joining into this. Do we have questions from the audience, or should we wrap up, Danielle?
We have one question. Oh, sorry, Danny.
Go ahead, Kyle.
We have one question that was asked from an outsider perspective, and I'll read it verbatim. Rather than just our experience getting into the gun culture as Asian Americans, what would be our outside observations about the gun culture at large here in the U.S.?
That's a good one. Guys?
I'm not quite sure I understand what the question is.
What, as Asian Americans looking at gun culture, like, typical gun or white gun culture, what have our observations been?
So from my perspective, and as early 30 kind of gal who's been in the Bay, it's been kind of negative. Not for me personally, but I broached the topic. We were supposed to come up with an intellectual discussion on a subject that is controversial, and one of the things is that I'm a gun owner, and then suddenly there was this guns kill people, gang violence. Hunters are, like they just destroy national parks. There were just so many things that were just negative stereotypes, and part of that is correcting some of the things that we do see on media. The news is also part of our amendment and right, free speech. And so part of that is also changing the language that we use. It's a double-edged sword hearing some of the stories, and obviously sensationalism does create business. And it's on us as just Americans, period, to learn how to filter and use our, level of education and our ability to converse, to clarify certain things, right? Actually, on the contrary, hunters are some of the best conservationists. They have some of the best, ways to address the environment and protect the environment. Gun violence, or at least gang violence, exists on all levels, and it's a problem worldwide, globally. It's not something that's just endemic to the States. There's so many different things that we kind of have to just correct over time. I'm not sure if that's fully answering the question, but you do see negative stereotypes, but again, it's on us to protect our rights, to have that conversation, and to articulate ourselves appropriately.
Yeah, I think there is, outsiders unfortunately lump all gun owners into this one bad bucket, right? So to Trisha's point, it's sort of like if an average American sees a terrorist or a gangbanger with a gun doing something bad with a gun, then somehow all of us good gun owners are somehow associated with that bad act. And that's a narrative that we need to continually push back against. And I know this is easier said than done, because where the rubber meets the road is you're at Thanksgiving with family or Chinese New Year, and somebody talks about some mass shooting that's just happened. Yeah. And then they turn to Erickson and say, Erickson, you own a gun. What do you think about the asshole, right, that just shot up a bunch of people? And now you're on the spot. And like, that's a really uncomfortable and challenging place to be in. But the point is, we have to have the courage of our convictions to say, yeah, like what happened, that terrorist attack was terrible. And I, as a responsible gun owner, don't condone that. I have nothing to do with that violence. And there is this other side, this good side of gun owning Americans and Asian Americans, right? We have our own unique story to also tell in this larger narrative of being an American, an Asian American gun owner.
Yeah. It's funny you bring that up about like Thanksgiving, because stuff like that has happened, over the holidays recently. And it's like, should I tell them now or wait for another opportunity, on a quiet time and not be in the middle of a family dinner, talking about this stuff. So, but, just hearing like everyone's story, it kind of makes me kind of backtrack, and maybe I will, approach, my immediate family members and say, hey, bye. Or maybe show, one of the videos, of like me attending either this challenge competition or even the most recent USPSA match that we did a few days ago, and just sharing, hey, check this out. What do you think? Maybe approach it that way rather than saying, hey, I bought a gun. And
Another thing to think about too is use our powers of persuasion and conversation, right? Like if we're going to demonize every gun owner for the act of one person, what do you say about coaches, right? Or teachers that have, dealt with molestation cases? Do we demonize every single instructor? Absolutely not. The education is the backbone of how we have accomplished so much in this country. So, at the same time, too, don't let one horrible event or bad apple spoil the rest of the bunch, right? We kind of have to push back respectfully with compassion and continue that conversation. So that would be my response to is to say, hey, unfortunately, it's sad that one person or that one event is somehow coloring the rest of the community, which is generally extremely, law abiding and reverent of
Mm-hmm.
the experience of having a gun or not having a gun, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Amy?
Well, and I think, like kind of what everyone is saying is be the example. And I think that it's, it's easy for other people who may not know you to, when they think of a gun owner, they think of all the negative examples they've seen. Mm-hmm. And, I've had the experience of having, a friend of mine, this is a long time ago, a friend of mine, not knowing that I was, into guns or anything like that. And, she started a conversation about gun control. And,
mm-hmm.
I listened to her and I didn't attack her, what she was thinking, but I just very calmly, said, well, you don't think I'm a bad person, do you? Well, of course not. Well, I'm a gun owner. And this is why I don't believe that passing this bill will work. And, to what Trish said, you have to be able to articulate and conduct yourself in a manner in which, you're basically just winning them over already, especially if it being your family and friends who already like you. You're just, letting them see a different side of you that, hey, I'm not a bad person overnight just because now that I own a gun or that I support, the Second Amendment. So I think just being that example and willing to sit down at the table and have a conversation with someone who might have very different views, than what you have, is the willingness to be able to listen to them if you want them to listen to you as well.
Well, I'm getting nods that we should close up. I think my experience has been, both taking defensive classes has been against my stereotype. Gun culture is really about the reverence of life, that we carry an awesome responsibility and we have to think about it. And the reason why we train is so that we have the brain space to be able to make a decision which will affect everyone's lives forever. And so there is this deep sort of need, we are pushed to actually think about what we do. And I think that's really important. I think most people go through their lives not thinking about what would they do if somebody really threatened to hurt their family. And so, they live in ignorance. And once you are a gun owner, you can't. You have to say, I understand the responsibility of what might happen, and I'm going to think through it. I'm going to train so that I can make a decision which has immense consequences. And I think I've seen this also in hunter culture as well, that, there's, all my friends are vegan, because I live near Berkeley. And I see in the hunters a deep reverence. They are so concerned with not having an animal suffer, not wasting a life unnecessarily, not letting the parts go to waste or to cause unnecessary damage. And I think that's really, really important. So that's, maybe that's more of me, my liberal experience as a gun owner than perhaps my Asian American, but a lot of my stereotypes have really been changing. Anyway, we are getting the nudges from our gracious hosts. And so I want to thank all of you, Amy, Chris, Erickson, Trish, for your conversations. And maybe do we hand it back to you, Danny and Ed?
Yeah, thanks everybody. This has been very eye-opening, and I'm very excited that I got to sit here with you guys for the last hour after talking to you for a couple months now planning this. So thank you again. This is going to be live on YouTube later on. Everybody, the chat has been thanking you all profusely. Everybody's really loved this. If anyone has any questions that didn't get addressed, you can email me at lgcevents@theliberalgunclub.com, and I will share the questions with these wonderful panelists and try to get an answer back to you.
And we never answered the question about like a cook-off or like sriracha versus other spices and.
Well, I believe there was only one other question that we didn't get to, and it should be a relatively quick one. Because other than the LGC, which is obviously hosting the event, are there any other Asian American shooting sports clubs that you could recommend, whether local or national?
I don't know if it's technically a club or if it's just a group of people, but at Richmond Rod and Gun, there's a group called Team All You Can Eat. And you all look Asian. So it could, maybe they're not. I'm getting the side eye from the other person in the room. So, but I mean, there are groups, there are cliques. If you message one of us after, the live stream, we will find them for you, or just come join us, whichever you'd like.
But maybe this is a call for it, Chris.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's an opportunity for the Asian American community to step up and form an Asian American gun club or something similar. There's the African American gun club, and I feel like there's a void and a vacuum, a leadership vacuum that I'm hopeful someone out there might fill, because there's a lot of opportunity for fun to bring Asians together. And to eat. I mean, we all love to eat like that. We could have a whole separate panel about food, let alone guns. So I would encourage anybody. The nice thing about advocacy is that anybody can be the one to raise their hand, right? To go find some gun owning friends and start a club. Start small, 5 people, 10 people, and build it from there. So I hope I see an Asian American gun club start up from somewhere in the next few years.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, I belong to a really large, predominantly Filipino cycling club, mountain bikers, and there's about 400 plus of us. Wow. There's a bunch of clubs, and we all just buy each other's shirts, jerseys, and since my brother-in-law and I started shooting, we created a subgroup of our cycling club, pretty much called Aguila Pistol and Rifle Group. And we're just talking, and then we just get together to go to the range. We show off the guns. And surprisingly, 80% of the club are gun owners. And so now I have, aside from LGC, I got another group I can hang out with and go shooting comfortably. And, not everyone's liberal there, but, there's a lot of interesting conversations that we have. So if anyone's interested, I'll put you in.
Amy, any thoughts from the Southeast?
Well, I know that I've seen a bunch of Instagram pages actually come up in the last several months. One of them that's sticking to my mind right now is called Rooftop Asians. So go find Rooftop Asians on Instagram. They highlight they're highlighting like different Asian shooters on their page.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's a good way to get. Yeah, it's a good way to get connected with.
We mentioned it at the Nationals.
Several people there. Yeah,
I think it got mentioned at the Nationals. I thought that's such a great name. Sorry, Ed is giving me the like.
I'm totally not giving you the look. I'm totally not.
Thanks, Ed. So back to you.
I do want to thank you all. This has been great. Yet another roaring success. And Amy and Karen, you're both repeat offenders for our panelists. So we're going to keep coming. We're going to keep dipping in that well, I think. So But I do thank Chris and Erickson and Trish. I've not met you in person before. I do very much appreciate you guys attending, giving us your insight, and making for yet another fabulous experience panel.